Hello, my name is Ari Mekwan. I am a recent graduate at ASU and I majored in biomedical engineering. I minored in English literature and I was also a part of Berkeley Honors College. From the beginning of college, I knew that I wanted to enter the technology industry and I knew I wanted to be an engineer. But I think through my time at ASU, specifically in the BME program, I learned that I wanted to enter the medical device field, and that's where I wanted to contribute and really be at the heart of innovation, driving medical technology forward. So, the summer between my junior and senior year, I interned at Medtronic, which is a global medical device company. And technically, my role was biomedical engineering intern. But what I learned was that a lot of my role was actually software. Um, I was pretty much coding all day, every day, and I really did enjoy it. But I think this experience was important for me to understand how broad BME really is. And I know as BMEs, we are often called jack of all trades, master of none. And that means when we're working on a medical device, we could really be working on any aspect of it. We could be doing the software part or the mechanical part or, an electrical part if there is one. And so as biomedical engineers, we really have to find our niche and we really have to find what we bring to the table because even though we have an amazing curriculum and an amazing program, we just learn so many different things and we're exposed to so many different things. So if you choose that you want to be in the medical device industry, you have to kind of pick what your strengths are, technically speaking. And so I think interning before my senior year, I learned a lot about not only Medtronic, but also what I wanted to do in the future. And I think that influenced a lot of my decisions in the future. So to give a little bit more insight, I was working on the diabetes division and specifically in sensor R&D. So I was working on a software validation tool for glucose meters and for creating those devices. And through that, I learned a lot about the electrical aspect of medical devices, and that actually was a big reason that I'm now going to graduate school for electrical engineering in the future. And that's this internship is also what I wrote about in my essay. So I think um, having this experience opened me up to not only the obvious things like being a professional, working alongside other engineers with all sorts of different backgrounds, not only biomedical engineers, working with, all sorts of engineers. I also learned what I want to do in my day to day and what maybe I don't want to do. And I also learned more about what my field actually was. And I think the biggest thing is it helped me feel less scared after graduation. So after graduation, I had already had a really good experience working in a company doing something I would want to do for the rest of my life as well. So I think after graduation, I felt a lot more confident about um, the field I was entering and how excited I was to go into it and like knowing that I needed to do certain things to help me succeed, but at least like I knew what those things were because I had an experience that showed me and gave me like a preview of what I would be doing if I wanted to keep doing that. Okay, so the way that I got this internship was I actually tell people it took me like 2.5 years to get this internship because I found out about Medtronic my freshman year. And since then, I knew that it was like the big internship that I wanted the summer after my junior year. So, freshman year, I went to every single info session, I went to every single career fair. I just asked a lot of questions and I learned about the company. And even though, I knew that this specific company wasn't really interested in freshmen. So, I knew that I wasn't really going to get that far, like as a freshman, but I was at least still learning about the company, learning about the type of candidate that it wanted, and it also really motivated me, like outside of that process, to make sure I was being proactive all semester and getting things on my resume that I knew would look good as like experience, and that would also like show me and them that I am capable of being a successful intern and contributing to whatever team I would be placed on at that company. So then my sophomore year, I kept on doing the same thing. But sophomore year, I was actually lucky enough to get an interview. So I got the first round. I didn't make it onto the second round, but after that interview that that I had through the career fair, I emailed them asking, hey, why didn't I make it onto the second round? Do you have any like constructive feedback you could give me so I could be a better candidate? And then they told me that I needed more technical knowledge. So then the summer after my sophomore year, I did an unpaid internship, but my biggest focus was just getting experience. And that summer, I actually did a software engineering internship where I did a lot of coding. But then my junior year came around, and I went back to the career fair, and I actually saw the same guy that interviewed me sophomore year. And I waited for 2 lines at the career fair, and I actually even missed class. But it was definitely worth it because I saw the guy that interviewed me my sophomore year, and upon seeing me, he immediately recognized me, and I immediately got an interview because I told him, this is what I've done in the past year to get more technical knowledge. And luckily, my junior year, I made it to the final round and I was able to secure an offer. But I think that if I hadn't put in the work since my freshman year, I don't know if that would have happened. I was really comfortable with the company and, giving my 30-second pitch and talking to employers my junior year because I had practiced so much and I had been going to those career fairs and those info sessions and every event that Medtronic was at, I made sure I was there as well. So I just knew a lot about the company and I had kind of been working for this since I was a freshman. So I think I really laid a lot of groundwork before my junior year to get this internship. Okay, so in terms of setbacks, I definitely think I had a lot. I was in 3 different research labs beginning my freshman year that I thought were really gonna, help me, but it turns out I didn't really like that research. So I made the difficult decision to not continue with those labs and work on engineering projects instead with EPICS, which is also called FSC 104 and 404. So I think that was something that I debated with a lot because I really thought that big companies wanted you to have research on your resume, but I personally wasn't super interested in it. So I had to make the decision and realize for myself that I had to do what I was actually excited about. And I could still develop my skills technically through engineering projects. I didn't have to do research, but that was definitely something that I went back and forth with a lot because, as I mentioned, I was in 3 separate research labs just trying to figure out what I liked. Another thing is I actually didn't have the highest GPA. So I think entering my junior year, I actually had like a little above a 3.3, which wasn't the highest because I think for the company I was recruiting for, um, their minimum was a 3.25. So I thought, okay, I'm really not a lot above like the minimum bar. But what I quickly realized is what these companies really want is actually experience. And I had a lot of that at the very least. So I think knowing that was also really helpful. And then besides those 2 things, I think the biggest challenge was just being really, really proactive. And it was tiring. And I think what a lot of people don't understand is when you're looking for internships, it's a lot of work, like going to different career fairs, making sure you're present at different info sessions and always being on the lookout for what new positions are being posted. That can be a little bit tiring on top of a really heavy course load, especially like when you're a sophomore and a junior. So I think that was tiring, but all of that was definitely worth it. So I think something that was a little unconventional, but I recommend more people do is the way I got my internship, or at least part of the reason, was because I recognized the person that was interviewing me from my sophomore year. So my sophomore year, I had a hunch that, this would happen. And I thought, I knew that the people that represent these companies, they come back every single year. So it actually is pretty likely that you're going to see him again. So I got interviewed by someone my sophomore year. And even though I didn't make it past the first round, they saw me junior year and they recognized me and they knew that I was already pretty ambitious as a sophomore. And so it was really easy for me to get that first interview and be in the first round. And then from there, I eventually made it onto the final round, but I think that definitely um, being interviewed by the same person 2 years in a row and having them recognize me, it definitely showed me that the effort that I put in prior to my junior year really did play a role in eventually getting my internship. So, when it came to recruiters, I think something that made me unique was my enthusiasm. Um, every time I interviewed and every time I was at an info session, I was just super, super enthusiastic and super, super excited. And I think when you're applying to different internships, sometimes it is easy to tell that this student is applying to this internship because they need an internship. The student doesn't often really make a connection with the company and the company's culture and the company's mission statement and things like that, and really prove like why they want to work at that specific company. And I think that's something that I did different. I had been going after this company since my freshman year. So I had learned a lot about it over that time, and I had really known like this is really like my big dream company. So by the time all those interviews hit my junior year, I think recruiters and hiring managers and different employers interviewing me really saw how like enthusiastic I was and how passionate I was, and that was something that was really hard to overlook. Something I always say is recruiters and hiring managers, they can train interns, they can train them technically, and they can show them like how to use different applications, but they can't train someone to be enthusiastic and like actually be passionate about the work and the mission that the company has. So I think um, my excitement really took me a long way. And another thing that I think helped me set me apart was my experience. So I definitely didn't have the highest GPA, but like I also mentioned, I was in a lot of different research labs, and I just had a lot of experience on my resume. I think one of the recruiters once told me as a sophomore was that I had as much experience as a senior would have. And that was just because I was really proactive, as I mentioned, because I knew from the beginning that this is the internship that I wanted, and I knew I kind of knew what their standards were, so I was really trying to meet those. And so I think having a lot of experience helped me and helped prove to myself and help prove to the recruiters that I had what it took to eventually be a successful intern and bring something to the table to this new company. So for students trying to get a similar internship, my biggest tip is start now. Like start early. Start your freshman year. Even if you think, "Oh, I'm a freshman and companies aren't really looking for freshmen and there's not really a way I'm going to get hired." Just know that you're making the groundwork. There were a lot of people that I emailed, like a lot of different recruiters and stuff that I emailed my freshman and my sophomore year, that I eventually followed up with them a year later. And then they recognized me. And sometimes I would just respond on that same email thread and say, "Hey, it's a year later and I'm back. And I still really want an internship at this place." And I think that gave a really good impression because it showed that I was really consistent, like with my interest in this company, and that I was, really working for it. And so I recommend students start now. And I think another thing is when it came to be junior year, I wasn't shy talking to recruiters because I had done so already my freshman year. So definitely like practice your 30-second pitch, practice talking to different employers, practice asking questions, and do a lot of research and be prepared. And my last big tip is be as resourceful as possible. So, and be as opportunistic as possible. So, starting your freshman year, when you hear about all these different organizations and all these different events and all of these different groups that are, doing really cool engineering things, try to be a part of it. And of course, that's something that can be on your resume, but more importantly, that's experience for you, and that is going to show you what you like, what you don't like, what you can do, what you're capable of, and maybe things you need to work a little bit harder at. And I think it's really valuable to have that outside of your regular coursework, because you also have to remember you having that coursework, but also like the tens and possibly hundreds of other students that are also in your major are also taking the exact same courses. So it's really important for you to stand out and show employers that you're not like any other student, and that there's a reason why they should hire you, and why you can also not only learn but make a valuable contribution to their company.